Welcome to Bear Archery's Hunting 101 podcast, where hunters new and old come to learn and find inspiration from stories of hunts gone by. Everyone is welcome to enjoy the outdoor way of life, and there is no better time to start than right now. So let's head into the great outdoors with your host, Dylan Ray.
All right, guys, thank you for joining us on Bear Archery's Hunting 101 podcast. I am joined. We are at the Mountain Archery Fest in, what town is this, Ogden? Are we in Ogden?
So I think the actual town that we're in, well, I think it is actually called...
Huntsville.
Huntsville, yeah, Huntsville.
That's right. Not Alabama, because nobody likes Alabama. Huntsville, Utah, at Snow Basin Resort for Mountain Archery Fest. I am with Dennis and Joe from Initial Ascent. Boys, how are you?
Doing good, man. How about yourself?
Hot.
It is hot.
It is very hot up here. It's very. It was like 10 o'clock, and I'm like, oh, Lord, this is going to be a rough day.
Yeah. I think we got 3 long, hot days ahead of us here.
Now, have you guys come to every Mountain Archery Fest?
We have been represented at every one this year, and everyone last year, too, since they started, right?
Yeah, I think we were the second sponsor that came on board. Second or third. It was us, Pope and Young, and I think it's H&H.
Yeah.
If I remember right.
I'll never forget that late...
HHA, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll never forget that late night in Salt Lake City during Expo when Brandon took us out to this diner. Actually, he didn't take us out. I think we took him to this diner thing, and we sat in there for what seemed like hours talking about his vision for Mountain Archery Fest.
Pretty awesome to see where it's come, right?
Oh, I know. It's awesome to see it come into reality and then some, right?
Yeah.
So which one's been your favorite Mountain Archery Fest yet? Because I only got to go to Beaver, which is in Utah as well, and this one. So I haven't got to go to all of them yet.
Well, since this is the first time we're here at Snow Basin, I think it's a great location. I think it's a great place, beautiful place. Just pristine is the word that comes to mind, especially compared to a couple of ones we've been to.
When I walked into this place, I didn't think hunting banquet. I thought like, we need to put on our ball gowns and tuxes and go to dinner. Yeah,
a little more formal than I'd say down at Beaver. But I think that's the beauty of it, right? I mean, you get different feels, different, down at Beaver, you're over 10,000 feet. I mean, that's going to put a drain on you, right? Then you go up to Idaho and you're probably at, 8,000 at the most?
No, not even. It was interesting. We were at like 5,500 or something. Okay. I even called Guy and said, hey, man.
Come on up.
Come on up. The elevation's not bad.
Dude, I couldn't sleep at Beaver.
That's tough.
I couldn't, man. Of course, living at 800.
Right.
You just jump to 10. When you go on a hunt or something, it's a little different because, you got a day of setting up base camp and then you pack in and you have a little more time, but I got off the plane basically at 10.
Right.
And then it's just like, all right, let's go to sleep. And I'm like, I couldn't, dude. It was rough.
It is rough. I mean, it takes a couple days to get acclimated usually. And, I think several folks were struggling with headaches and dealing with it. But,
Now, isn't there and I might be completely off base here, doesn't Mountain Ops make like what is it?
They do. I don't know the name of it, but for altitude sickness, it's kind of a pre that you take before so that you don't get it. And I think it works pretty good from what I understand.
Well, that's the reason I ask is because like right when we got there, somebody mentioned the altitude and Brandon's like, I've constantly been sucking down whatever it's called for Mountain Ops. And I'm like, you look into that.
Yeah. I know it exists. I've never used it, but I know it exists.
Very cool. Now, we got ahead of ourselves. Joe, you've been on the show before. Dennis, welcome to the show for the first time.
Man, I'm glad to be here.
Give us a quick introduction to yourself.
Okay, so Dennis Stokes. I'm originally from
He's stoked
Florida.
To be here.
I'm stoked to be here. Now hail from Middleton, Idaho for the last 20-plus years. And, so I don't know. I started as a dairy nutrition consultant there in Idaho, and I've been doing that since I've been there. And Joe and I started this journey back in, was it 2015?
Yeah.
So I'm.
What was the vision for Initial Ascent? Where'd that what was birthed? How'd that?
Making a better pack. I mean, Joe and I, had discussions on hunts. We had discussions. We were both, really into gear, as a lot of hunters are, and we just couldn't find something that worked just right for us. And me in particularly, I've had a bad back for years and years, and I just didn't have any, and I've owned them all, and just had not found anything that would fit, perfect for me and the way my back was. And so that was one of the things, selfishly, I guess, in creating the frame and suspension system. It had to be comfortable where I could, carry it for days on end. And
well, I wouldn't even say selfish, because if you're in need of the product, then there's other people in need of the product as well.
Yeah, and that's one thing we found.
No idea has been birthed by saying, man, this would be a useless product. Let's design it.
Right.
Like, I don't need this. Nobody needs it. Let's design it.
Right.
So, now walk me through kind of, and I told you, I don't remember who I spoke with first, but whoever it was, I said that was my pull and my draw to Initial Ascent, was that packs are made one by one at a time for the customer. They're not mass produced and shipped, and it's not one pack fits all. And that's so walk me through kind of the different sizing and how that works for different people, and why it is we can make this the best pack for you individually.
Yes, I mean, when Dennis and I set out on this, obviously we don't have tall stature. Both of us are on a good day 5'6". Maybe 5'7" for Dennis, but not for Joe. So, I mean, when we set out on the journey, it was really trying to figure out, selfishly to Dennis's point, something that took care of us. But as we white sheeted it and really started to lay out what our business plan was, one of the things we knew is we needed to have the adjustability, because just face it, I mean, if you cannot adjust a frame or suspension, then you're dealing with the same issues of having an uncomfortable fit. So as we went through that whole process, laying out, what the materials were going to be, how we were going to design it, and if you look at, even kind of our vision statement, we talk about making sure that functionality is key, but it's got to be comfortable, right? So we designed it so you've got complete flexibility to adjust torso lengths. We've actually got 6 torso length adjustments. And then we also have the ability to adjust load lifters. So you can really fine tune this pack. But we've taken it really a step further, where if you watch our video on how you should go about doing a torso length measurement, you can actually go in, take your own torso length measurement, give us that information, and then we will really kind of customize so that when that pack shows up on your doorstep, it is fit specifically for your torso length. So it's really an out-of-the-box experience to go straight to the mountains.
And that was, I've tried several packs too, and to my demise, and it's my pet peeve when somebody says, well, you've just never tried something good, then shut up. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But I pulled that pack out and put it on, and I was just like, oh, wow. Like, there wasn't a ton, and you walked us through on video how to fit a pack to you, but there wasn't a lot of that needed. Like when you get a new pack, a lot of times it takes an hour and a half of playing with it and moving this strap and that strap, and if I move this strap, now I got to move this one a touch, and now I got to move this other one a touch. Like, there wasn't a lot of that. It was like 10 minutes, and I was like, oh, this is comfy. Like, comfy.
Yeah.
And I threw a 45-pound plate in it, and live in Kansas, and I couldn't find a mountain.
Right.
But I just went to our local dam. That's where I hike every morning, is our dam. So I put 45 in it and went and walked up and down the dam, and I'm like, yes. Like, there, I could tell out of the box, this is for me. Like,
right.
and that was what was special about it.
And that's one of the great things. I mean, we're not a big company, right? And one of the things that Dennis and I hang our hat on is our customer service, because without our customers, and it's cliche, you hear it, but it is so true. We do this for our customers. Nothing makes us more excited when we get a phone call and somebody talks about how much pain they were in before, and now they're having an enjoyable hunting experience in the backcountry. That's our reward at the end of the day, is hearing that from folks. And
it's my reward for having a comfortable pack.
There you go. Yeah, it's a win-win, so to speak.
No, and I tell that, I mean, that's my end goal for everything. So I can walk through the products I use, and it was that light bulb moment of, this is what it should feel like. I've told the story about schnees and blisters and hot spots were just so common that I didn't even know how common they were. and then I finally got a good pair of boots, and I'm like, oh, praise God.
Right.
Like, that's the difference.
Right.
Or even socks, finding merino that works for me. And I mean, it's that light bulb moment of, there it is.
Yeah.
And that was, and I haven't got to take the pack into the mountains yet, but 45 pounds on the dam, I was like, oh, yeah, that's it. Like, that's what I've been missing.
Yeah.
So,
and that's exactly what we're going for right there.
Now, before we move on, so good friends of mine, good friends of the podcast, good friends of Pope and Young, John V. Mesh was a firefighter in Kansas City. He died in the line of duty. And his brother, Jim Mesh, who's become just a pretty good friend of mine, he's a great guy, they started a memorial fund in his name. And basically what they do is they host events across the country, and they put on these events for children to help get kids involved in the outdoors. And so they at the E3 Ranch, they run an event, which is just a phenomenal ranch. But they run an event, which is Adam LaRoche. That's his ranch. But they run events for children to help get children involved in the outdoors. And then they take that money and they have a scholarship. So anybody who's trying to get into the outdoor industry for agriculture or whatever, wildlife biologist, they actually will give a scholarship to a kid every year to go into that. So go check out John V. Mesh. They're on social media at Hunt363 Club. That was his firefighter number. So go check those guys out and support them, because they are a fantastic cause. And I've really got to know just a lot about their organization through working with them from Pope and Young and the podcast. And so they're great guys. So go check them out. What's your hunt plans for the year, gentlemen?
So
kill a whole lot of stuff.
Well, my plan is to actually go and be out there. This last year, for one reason or the other, and COVID was a part of that. I think I got to hunt all of 6 days last fall, and
you're too busy.
I tell you what, it will not happen again. It will. I will not let work do that to me.
I loved COVID because I was hunting so much.
Yeah. Well, COVID prevented me. Actually, things had slowed down in November, for initial ascent. So we were just kind of cruising. Things weren't too bad as far as busy and everything. So I was thinking, man, I'm gonna get to do this. And then with my other career, things had really slowed down, and so I wasn't having to attend to that. And my son and I were actually supposed to fly into the Frank Church for 7 days. And 2 days before we were supposed to leave, he tested positive for COVID.
So you just lied.
And so I called my buddy that actually has the flight service going in there, and it was going to be a really cool hunt, backcountry type thing. You fly in there, there's an airstrip, and then you can hike from there and just bonsai into the mountains from there. You can literally hunt right there at the airstrip if you wanted to. But I called him up and I said, hey man, here's the deal. I said, how big is this plane? Can we get 6 feet apart? And I said, if we wear a mask, are we going to be okay? Man, I'm sorry, I can't do that to my pilot, And we laughed. I knew he couldn't do it, but we laughed about it. But yeah, so this year, getting to that, I've got an archery antelope tag I drew in Idaho. Starts August 15th. I'm going to go put some time into that. Already scouted just a little bit, and I'm ready to go. It's out in the desert.
Now, I've already told my wife, 2022, spring bear, I'm with Initial Ascent in Idaho.
You're coming, huh?
I'm coming.
Good deal.
I have this, bear kick, and I don't know why. I don't know. It's all I want to hunt. I had buddies last year hey, elk hunt. You want to go on elk hunt? We're paying. I'm like, I just want to go on a bear hunt.
Well, Dennis is the bear whisperer, I would say, in our group, no question. He's harvested quite a few bear, and
then we don't need you.
Yeah.
I'll just go with you. No, I don't know why. I grew up in Arkansas where there is a huntable population, and I never even thought about it. I don't know. I was sitting at college one day, and I'll tell you what it was. I know exactly what it was. It's Clay Newcomb, don't know how to say it, with Bear Hunting Magazine. He put out this video, and his goal was to kill a bear in the Ozark Mountains, which is where I grew up. He grew up not far from me, or lives not far from where I grew up. And his goal was to hunt a bear in the Ozark spot and stalk with his recurve. And I watched that video, and I'm like, bears. I had bears all along. I never even hunted them. And then I just went on a bear kick and started hunting in Idaho and Maine and New Mexico. And my dad said, we have bears here, right, son? And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to hunt them there. I want to go somewhere else. I don't know. I just sparked something in me.
Yeah, that's really cool. And bear hunting is just, I don't know. There's really, and I've turkey hunted. I didn't grow up turkey hunting, but I've turkey hunted several times, and
turkey
I enjoy
sucks.
it. I enjoy it. I mean, but
if you're a turkey hunter out there, no, I'm never.
Nothing like bears, though. Bears are just they're such cool critters, and
I'll tell you one of the biggest fascinations for me personally. You kill an old deer in Kansas, you're looking at 7, 8 years old. You can kill bears that are 20 years old.
Yeah,
and that's just. That bear's lived 20 years old.
Right.
That's fascinating.
The bear I killed this spring, I'm banking that he's going to be somewhere between 15 and 20. He was just an old
that's amazing.
warrior,
It's amazing.
So
he's older than your daughter.
Yeah, exactly.
That blows my mind. Mm-hmm. Like that this animal I just harvested has lived longer than my children have lived.
Right.
Like it's insane. And it's cool to think, this deer lived 7 years happily and whatever, but a bear that's lived 20 years has seen everything, felt everything, heard everything, and we outsmarted him. Like it's just insane to me.
Yeah, but you could, even when...
And they can kill you as well.
Yeah. You could tell, though, that this mature boar had, when he showed himself, he just walked like he owned the mountain. And
because he does.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had glassed, golly, that was right at dark. So probably 15 minutes before legal shooting light. So it was nip and tuck type thing. But we had been glassing since daylight on this, and we had a lot of country that we could look at, but no other boars that day. We saw sows, cubs. Multiple bears, different bears out there, but he was the only boar we saw, and we figured out why. That dude owned it.
Now, my first hunt in Idaho, I think I told you about this.
You did tell me a
little
bit about it.
And I think you called me out on it with Rob.
I did.
It was rough. It was hard hunting, man. And at first, it put a sour taste in my mouth because I ended up shooting and missing. And so I was like, man, this sucks. Like, bear hunting's hard. But then I got back home, and a month later, I'm like, all right, like it was almost like that whole you got me once, now it's time to go get you again. So the next year I went and actually hunted in Maine the next year and harvested one, and I don't know, man, there's just something about it. Like they're the only non-antlered animal that gets me fired up, and they get me fired up.
Yeah,
absolutely. What about you? Hunting plans? 2022, you got a bear hunt planned? Yeah, not with us. We're gonna go kill bears.
I'm gonna go solo. Sounds like. So. Kind of like Dennis last year, I didn't get a lot in, but this year I do have a couple hunts that I'm really looking forward to. So actually in September, I'm going to do an antelope hunt in Wyoming with my brother, and we've only hunted big game one other time together in our life. So I'm excited to do that, and then my son, my oldest boy, is going to go on that hunt as well. So we all three drew. So that'll be September. Obviously, we will do over-the-counter archery in Idaho as well. And then my youngest boy, who's 17, he drew a cow elk tag, and he's relatively new to hunting. Didn't have much interest in it. He's heavily into the sports, but now he's really starting to take into the hunting side of things. So I'm getting to spend a bunch of time with him, and he drew a really good, cow elk tag. So we'll go in November on that, and then. I don't have anything else outside of the state. We'll do we'll mule deer hunt. And that's one of the joys with Idaho. It's, we can get over-the-counter tags, no problem. And there's good bucks in, over-the-counter units. So I'll do that, but nothing real big this year planned, so to speak.
It's funny because that was like the age, 17 was where I started. Like up to that point, my dad was just like, you want to go hunting? I'm like, I guess.
Right.
Sure. And but that age, it was just like something sparked.
Yeah.
I actually quit fall sports.
Yep.
And my coach was like, "Why?" I'm like, "Dude, it's hunting season."
That's what he's done now. So he's
up
to
that point, it was like, "Don't bother me." Like, and we were so strict in basketball. Like, it was like hey, you've got a game tomorrow. Get home, get to bed by 10. Like,
right.
It was like that kind of life. And then it was just like, I don't care about this anymore. I want to hunt. Like,
yeah.
And I just up and quit. Like, and I don't know. It's stuck with me, I guess.
Yeah, no, man, it's awesome for me because now I get to go through this whole journey again with another son.
Yeah.
Last year he got his was his first year really hunting, and he got a nice deer. So yeah, this should be another good year.
Yeah. Now I looking back on that 17-year-old year, because that was the first year that I said, all right, Dad, I'm going hunting. Like, without you, I'm going hunting. I look back at all the stupid stuff I did. Like, I'm like, how did I think I was going to kill a deer?
Yeah.
Like,
but it was fun, though, right? I mean,
blast.
it's an adventure.
I mean, me and buddies are hanging tree stands, 4 foot off the ground.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a blast, but we didn't have a chance.
Oh.
I need to write a book about all the stupid stuff I've done hunting. So when it comes to, let's loop it all back to packs. When it comes to a pack, like what should, and really in general, even if they're not going to get an initial ascent, and you talked about this in the video that we did in our field note video, but what do they need to look for in a pack? Like if somebody doesn't know, how do I buy a good pack? Because for me, that's where I was at. A Midwestern guy, all I have is what people have told me.
Right.
Growing up in the Midwest and even in the South, I didn't need a backcountry pack. So before that first hunt in Idaho, it was just whatever somebody said. And of course, they're trying to sell their packs. But so what's the one thing, like a feature in a pack, that they need to look for?
Well, I would say that the first thing they have to ask themselves is, what kind of hunting am I going to be doing? I mean, so you've got, the size of bag and that sort of thing. And our system is a modular system. So by that, I mean, the frame suspension is interchangeable with all the bags that we have. And
another reason I liked you guys.
Yeah. So that's really cool. So then once you decide, hey, I'm going to do a bunch of day hunting, but I do want to go on a 5-6 day hunt every once in a while, maybe once a season or something like that. Once you decided, what type of hunting you're going to do, and you kind of choose that, the biggest thing is obviously fit, and the frame is our foundation. That's where it starts. And so we took 3 years to bring that frame to light, and it was one of those deals where it was just constant, drawings and testings, and we had 3 different engineer firms working with us on it. But that's where it starts. And because what it's built for is carrying that weight comfortably for long periods of time. So it's all about energy expenditure, right? So we want that weight. We want, 85-90% of it on your hips and driving through your hips, not on your shoulders. But it's adjustable to where you can kind of go back and forth if you want. But I would say, getting the proper fit is the main thing with any pack. It doesn't matter if it's ours or somebody else's.
Nothing to add?
No, I mean, I think it's spot on, right? As I think about, if I were, in the market for a pack, what would I do? And I guess the one thing I would say, just to build on what Dennis talked about, is make it a priority to go to some of these shows, right? Where you've got 8-10 different pack manufacturers that are there, because everybody approaches it a little different. And there's different levels of packs, if you will. But I would try them on, right? See what fits your body type, right? Because it's not a one size fits all in every single case. Everybody's body's a little bit different. We feel like we have the flexibility with our suspension frame system to be able to adjust to most individuals, but proof's in the pudding, right, so to speak. Get some weight on it, go to one of these shows, try on, half a dozen packs, but make sure you do it with weight, make sure it fits you, make sure it's the same weight, right? A 40-pound pack versus an 80-pound pack, make sure it's apples to apples.
Well, and I remember, I think it was in Beaver, somebody walked up to you and they said, well, man, I just found I don't remember if they said Stone Glacier or what, but they said, and it just works for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what works. And you're like, that's good. Like, you found one that works for you. And I was like, good answer. Like, it's not all about initial ascent. Find a pack that works for you.
Right, absolutely.
And I'll be the first to tell you guys know I'm a huge fan of Schnees, but they're not going to work for everyone. I mean, for some people, a Crispy's going to run great. For some people, a Kinetrek's going to run great. what boots work for you. Find what, and that's what. So I remember that was another one of the appeals towards initial ascent. And then I want you to talk about load lifters, but that was one of my appeal towards initial ascent, because I used to be the kind of guy that was like, I need one thing to do all. And it started with a good pair of boots. And I'm like, I want one pair of boots to do all.
Right.
Well, I quickly realized, like, you can't do that. Like, you can get by for a while, but I don't want to wear leather in a tree stand because they hold scent. And I certainly don't want to wear them out in the duck marsh, so that's not going to work. And then I need a stiffer boot for out west. And so I learned that, I'm going to have a couple pairs of boots. But when it came to a pack and I saw the interchangeable bags, I'm like, well, I can't have one pack.
Right.
Then I just got to buy a couple different bags, and really, I'm running the 2K for regular whitetail hunting, and then all I got to do is switch out a bag to go out west. I don't have to change everything about what I'm using, and I don't have to. This might sound dumb, but I don't have to learn a new pack. I mean, it's there. It's ready for me.
Yeah, and the financial piece, right? I mean, we do a lifetime warranty on our products, on our frame, and we cover any manufacturer's defects, and we realize it's an investment for people, right? These are not inexpensive, but there's a lot of value in what you're getting. So we wanted to make it so that it was a system that over the long term, when you combine everything, it becomes affordable so that you can have different hunting environments and still be able to have different options from different bag sizes to fit that hunting environment that you're going into.
Now, real quick, before we move on, let me give a quick thank you to my friends over at WiseEye. They are the best cellular trail camera money can possibly buy. They have fantastic features, and we had them on the show not too long ago to really talk about everything they do. But they've got game recognition technology, so I only get pictures of the deer I want, the bucks I want. Don't have to scroll through thousands of pictures of does and coons and squirrels. It'll just send me the pictures of the bucks, but also I can log into the app, and it will separate the bucks based off of antlers. So I can look at, if I name a deer Sticks, I can go in and look at all the pictures it's taken of him over the last, 6 months, and then it shows me weather breakdowns of when he was in. So I can look at different maps of moon phases from when he was in and stuff like that. So WiseEye, fantastic. Our good friend Thomas at Universal Outdoor Products sells WiseEye, so go check out WiseEye over at universaloutdoorproducts.com. They're fantastic cameras. I swear by them. And some places I use them for cellular, some places I don't. Like some of my leases in Oklahoma that I don't get to go to often, I'll run cellular, but they also just work great if you turn cellular off and just run them as a camera. So go check out WiseEye because they are fantastic. Now, one thing you mentioned, and I want to talk about how can you recognize if it'll work for you. On the video you mentioned having adjustable load lifters. Are there load lifters that aren't adjustable?
Yeah, there's actually quite a few pack manufacturers out there that's just a fixed point, right? You don't have that ability to adjust the load lifters up or down. You heard it here
first. If they're not adjustable, your pack sucks. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Go on.
Yeah, so I think that's, back to the exploratory phase as you're kind of going through this, that's one of those things too. If you're new into kind of Western hunting and looking at some of these pack options, make sure you do have that ability to adjust your load lifters. We have 3 different load lifter positions on our male frame, so to speak, on an Intergus frame. And for somebody that's my height, 5'5", 5'6", there's the perfect slot size for that. But if I'm 6'6", 6'7", I need
muley freak right over here. He's 6'8".
Yeah, I mean somebody like that we could fit on the same frame and suspension. So we've got that flexibility.
It's funny. I was joking with him earlier. I said, "Well, you're like 6'5". He said, "Well, actually 6'8", but
yeah, he's a tall dude."
So what is up until this point? Dennis, what has been your most memorable hunt?
That's an easy one for me, actually. So I went on a hunt. This was 2 years ago, and so my dad passed away back in 2018, and before a couple years before he passed away, I had taken him on his very first mule deer hunt. And I actually booked it because I didn't want to be responsible for his success. But I actually booked it with Western Lands Outfitters in Utah, actually. And booked a mule deer hunt. We were there for 6 days, I guess, and the year before I had him out to Idaho to hunt mule deer, and that was the first time I discovered that he was suffering from COPD. He had never disclosed that, and he couldn't walk 12 feet up a hill without having to take a break. And so I knew it had to be a special situation, and those guys at Western Lands were just awesome. And so we went, and the very last day, we looked at so many bucks, and it had to be the right situation because he couldn't move real fast, and just had to be the right situation. And on the last day, he ended up finding a buck that was in a stockable situation for him, made a perfect shot on him, and it was awesome. So I got to...
Well, way to make me tear up on a podcast.
Well, I actually, after he passed away, I called Western Lands, and I said, I want to come to a mule deer hunt on the same place that my dad did. And so I went to commemorate him, and it was really interesting because the guide that was with my dad and that got him his buck 4 years earlier, he hadn't guided there for, about 3 years. And the week that I was booked, my good friend Ryan Eder had gotten a moose hunt for his wife and booked a week there at Western Lands. And this guy, they needed some help, and so this guy that guided my dad actually was the guide that came in to guide them on their moose hunt.
That's incredible.
And so we got to have a little reunion, and
I'm not going to ask you for a story now.
And, well, I'll try to keep this somewhat short, but it's very sentimental to me. But we went and I had another guide, and that guide was actually there as well when my dad killed his buck, and Tanner was just amazing, and a young guy and hard worker and everything. So he knew what it meant to me, and he actually took me back to the place where my dad shot his buck, and it was pretty awesome. But they finished their moose hunt a couple of days before I could find a deer that I could take, and it ended up. They helped me on that last day. So Sean, the guide that guided my dad, he was out looking for bucks for me. Tanner and I were on another hill looking for bucks. Sean radios and says, "I've found your buck." And so, long story short...
If you tell me it died like in the same area as your dad's, I'm going to freak out here.
It wasn't, but just to have Sean...
I was going to shut the computer and go home.
Just to have Sean come in for the first time in about 3 years and actually be the one that found my buck for me was just... It was a godsend. I mean, awesome. It really was just a God thing for me. And so anyway, we sat on this group of bucks for 7 hours and ended up finally getting a shot at him and made a great shot. And I'll tell you the story, the real quick story about when I pulled the trigger. So we had 40 and 50 mile an hour gusts all afternoon, and I'm lined up there. I've got my window open, everything, and right before I went to pull the trigger, I mean, Tanner said, "Go ahead and take it, if you've got it." I mean, I was playing a 40 mile an hour wind. Everything stopped.
Wow.
The wind completely shut off. I squeezed the trigger after put the crosshair directly on him and made a great shot on that buck. And guess what? About 3 seconds after I pulled the trigger and the buck went down, the wind got right back.
That's awesome, man. Well, I think we're done here. That pretty much sums it up. No, so last week was the Pope Young convention, and we were slammed with that. And we were doing some podcasts, and we pulling some people in, and on the Pope and Young podcast, we ask every guest, what's one non-conventional item you take with you in the field? And we had pulled in Dallas Smith, who is our vice president, just a bad to the bone hunter. I mean, one of the most genuine guys you'll ever meet. And so we're doing this whole podcast, and man, we're having fun. And my boss goes to ask that question. Jason, our executive director, goes to ask that question. And Dallas he says, no, I don't want to sound cheesy or anything. And I'm like, oh, great. He's going to say something dumb. And he starts crying. I'm talking crying. And we're in the middle of the Pope and Young convention. And just the most genuine guy starts crying. And I don't know who he was talking about, but a lot of other people in the room apparently knew who he was talking about. But he said, I always carry my relationships with me, no matter where I'm at. And I was like, wow. And he went on to tell about a friend who, they had hunted X amount of states together and X amount of countries together and flown X amount of miles, hiked X amount of miles. And I think he had actually added all this up. And he's like, we had hiked over 50,000 miles together and flown 600,000 miles together and all this stuff. And now he's gone. I'm on those hunts without him. He's like, so I always carry my relationships with me. And I'm like, okay, well, that was the best answer we've ever had. Up to that point, we're like Uncrustables or bacon or, chapstick. And then he pours his heart out. And I'm like, okay, there it is. That was fantastic. So, let's talk a little bit about, we're going to completely switch topics, and maybe I shouldn't, but I'm passionate about cooking wild game. Either of you? I didn't say eating wild game. I said cooking it.
I'm not very good at it, but I'm passionate about it.
I hate cooking anything. Flat out. I will go without eating before I will cook.
About like waffles.
No,
like
hey,
waffles.
you just gave me some little treat I've never heard of in my life.
Uncrustables.
Right? Uncrustables?
Listen, if you have
Changed his life.
If anybody's listening to this and you have a connection at Uncrustables, you need to tell them this guy Dylan on this podcast has sold more Uncrustables in the hunting community than you guys have ever sold in a year. So, no, Uncrustables are fantastic. Best tree stand snack in America. Prove me wrong, I dare you. What was I even asking you?
About cooking.
Frozen waffles? You want to even pop some frozen waffles in the toaster?
Man, I don't know what it is. I do not.
So I'm not going to, you're not
it's
coming
an
on this
empty
bear
fridge.
hunting with us. Nothing up until this point you've said has made me think Joe needs to come bear hunting with us. There's guys where I'm like, you suck at hunting and you probably even bring us down a bit, but you're a great cook, so you can come.
You can come, right?
Or
yeah, that's not me.
Or you're funny or whatever, but you haven't even given me anything here.
Certainly not going to give you any food.
Well, okay,
He's
so
speechless.
That's going to slow this down a bit, I
Joe's
guess.
got tons of backups, though, for people like me that don't think about bringing some essential, things. Joe's
you
there.
You can come bear
man.
hunting.
Yes, yeah. I am that essential guy.
Yeah. I'd have died on this last trip that Joe and I took.
Yeah, we just got back from a trip. I won't tell the details, but we just got back from a trip.
About a week ago. It's a great story, but we don't need to tell it on this podcast.
I've forgotten shoes before. Like, you ever...
Ooh.
No, my son's done that, and I made him go on the hunt even without him.
He said, but he's an infant, and you're a grown man. No.
Joe carried him all over the
I told you that story last time,
You
didn't
did,
I?
yeah.
About the flip-flops.
Yeah.
That's for another time, but we'll just say this. I stalked a bear in the Idaho mountains for 2 miles in barefoot. Ooh. We'll leave it at that. No, so I recently stumbled upon Rebel 6 seasonings. Basically, they have 9 different seasonings, and it covers all of your wild game. So you can buy elk rub, sweet bear rub. That's what I'm talking about.
Really?
That sounds good.
Put it on your bacon. Like, if you're frying up bacon, sprinkle some of their sweet bear seasoning on it. It, like, caramelizes on because it's got brown sugar in it. Fantastic.
Had me at brown sugar.
Had me at bacon. No.
Yeah.
So they have all different seasonings for all different wild game. What is your favorite wild game like to eat?
It just depends on what comes out of the freezer, because I try to make my wild.
That's a crap answer.
I'm sorry.
That's a crap answer.
Because here lately,
because I've had stuff where I'm like, that sucks.
It's not good.
That's horrible.
That's not
good.
good.
You didn't ask me what's the worst wild game, because I will answer that. But
what's the worst?
Gosh, tar.
Yeah, we had tar over New Zealand. That was bad.
That was bad.
But it was right in the rut too.
Yeah.
Or if it's called. If the name is tar, just don't eat it.
Exactly.
Although I will tell you, we had kidney fat with that. Remember that?
Yeah, it was kidney fat from a fallow deer.
From a fallow deer with the tar meat, and it helped a ton. I mean, you could eat that just by itself.
That was interesting how that Kiwi fixed it up. He sliced it just paper thin and put it in the pan, and it just just got a little translucent.
Really?
And then you take and you eat a piece of fat with every bite of the tar, because the tar was so really lean meat.
Yeah.
And it was really gamey. But we did
really
that.
Disgusting.
And, oh my word, it was
that was good.
But there's been so many wild game though, where I've heard nothing but bad things. Javelina, like we went down to Texas and everybody's like, don't even eat them, and the guide was like, why not? Like, and we cut around there's a scent gland on their back. We cut around that, cooked it up. It was fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, we were at one of the BHA events in Boise one year, and they had some unique foods on the menu. They had beaver, remember that on there? But they also had lynx, and I'd never had that before. And I had heard, you know, how good like mountain lion is, but still haven't had a chance to try that. But the lynx
I've heard
was
mountain
amazing.
lion's really good.
The lynx was amazing.
So I don't remember her name. You guys might know. Killed a new world record mountain lion. Shelly Fulton, I believe is her name. So we recognized it last week at Pope and Young as the new world record. Huge cat. And we posted it, you know, new world record, and somebody commented, why on earth would you kill something if you're not going to eat it? Just assuming that we don't eat it.
Sure.
And I don't eat it, and she actually commented back and she said we ate every bit of it.
Absolutely.
It's fantastic. It's
I hear that over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I've had it before, and I've really enjoyed it. So
no, I've had wild game that's not great. I mean, shark, horrible. I don't know if I suck at cooking shark. Probably do, but no, it's just super, super bland. I mean, it's like you're chewing on a rubber band.
Rubbery.
I mean, there's no flavor to it at all. I mean, just horrible. But favorite wild game?
So, I mean, I'm a waterfowler, man. I love duck. I absolutely love duck.
Red speckle belly?
I'm not a big on specks. No.
Not big on eating them or not big on hunting them?
On eating them. That was a mic drop number 2 for him.
I'm just putting the mic down on you, dude. That's the best waterfowl there is, other than sandhills.
I haven't had sandhills yet, although I saw some this morning, but I've not.
We did too.
Did
on
you?
the way up?
Yep.
Yeah. Saw a lot of turkeys on the way up too.
Yep.
No, we saw some sandhills.
No, we love duck. I mean,
I can't believe you don't like speckle belly.
It's just not my favorite.
Oh my gosh, this guy here. I've only had it once. So, and that's my thing on bear too. I've only eaten the one bear that I killed in Maine, and it was phenomenal. So I can't. It was my favorite wild game to date. But I can't say that in general bear meat's my favorite because I've only eaten one bear.
Right.
But the speckle belly that I had was also cooked by one of the top 10 chefs in America.
Okay. From
the Food Network. And I was like, he's literally one of my best friends, lives in my hometown, went to Food Network, got named top 10 chef.
Wow.
So anyways, we're hanging out, and I had heard speckle belly was good, and so he took some and just did some real simple stuff to it and grilled it, and we ate it, and he put it on like brioche buns and put like some kind of sauce on it, and we ate it as sandwiches, and it was the best waterfowl I've ever had.
Wow.
But again, I'll be honest, I acted like it's my favorite. That speckle belly was my favorite waterfowl I've ever had, but I can't say that in general it's my favorite.
Right.
So
another one that I really like is antelope.
Really?
Yeah, if you get it cooled off quick, seems like that's the ticket with antelope, but I would put that up there with elk any day of the week. I absolutely love antelope.
Yeah, one of my friends, he said we invited him over for dinner. He's like, what can we bring? And I'm like, just bring yourself, man. And so they show up, and he had a Tupperware container. I'm like, I told you you didn't have to bring anything. And he popped it open, and it was some stinging antelope backstrap.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, never mind then. So we fired
welcome.
up the grill, and it was fantastic.
It is.
Best wild game. You got to think of something.
Axis.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
Okay. I'll
Axis deer. In the last
Texas or Hawaii.
So Texas, I haven't been to Hawaii yet. I'm planning.
I've only had one in Texas, but I hear they're way better in Hawaii. I think everything's just better in Hawaii.
Better in Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
Texas sucks as a state. No, I'm just kidding. But I've just heard they're just because of the nature of what they eat. I think they're also, I don't know this to be true, but I think they're just less stressed in Hawaii. Obviously, I think everybody's less stressed in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're just more tender and more delicious and fat. And
yeah.
So we're going to Hawaii.
Where
are you going?
Man, yeah.
I don't know yet.
I think you're coming with, aren't you, Joe?
I might go on that one. We've talked about that one for a little while.
Yeah.
I've wanted to hunt Hawaii. I have a good friend who has been to Hawaii several times and just loves it.
Yeah.
And he hunts axis there. That's what he does there, and he just loves it. And I'm like, well, I can kill the same species in Texas for a tenth of the price. So I'll just go to Texas.
Yeah, I like hunting down in Texas. I really do.
Because it's fantastic.
Yeah, it is. Shot opportunities.
Hunting in Texas is... Well, what's crazy is we were talking with... Ben Solaris is his name. He's from Australia. He basically runs the Australian equivalent to Pope and Young. And we were asking him, and he's hunted in like 4 countries, 5 countries, however many providences and however many states. And we said, well, what's your favorite place to hunt? And he said, South Texas, by far. And I'm like, you've hunted Africa, Australia, New Zealand, and you're saying South Texas? And he's like, it's just phenomenal. It's fantastic.
Wow.
And it truly is something special to hunt down there. Have you ever hunted down there?
I haven't, no.
That's where we need to go.
We talked about doing a hog hunt down there, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Hogs are so fun. Because I'll just shoot them however many. Don't care how big. You know, I mean, that's just... I posted a video the other day, and it was going to be my first shot with a recurve.
Yeah.
And I blew it, hit it right in the butt. Which that's for another podcast, too, because I've already went on tangents for all the keyboard warriors out there saying practice more. And I'm like, you pick up a recurve. You know what I mean? But anyways, and it was like a 40-pound pig. And people were like, why would you shoot that little baby? And I'm like, it's a pig, dude. It's going to grow up to cause just as much destruction. I mean, give it a year, and it'll be a 200-pound pig. I mean, that's why pigs are so fun, because you don't have to worry about anything. Just shoot them all. I've unloaded. One time I was on a hunt, and there was probably 10 of us. And me and my buddy are walking through the woods, and a whole sonder of pigs run out, and there's a bunch of little piglets behind them. We unload. And so I was like, how many did you get? And we texted him a picture, and there was like 4 little piglets. And like all that shooting for 4 piglets, like you try to hit running piglets at 200 yards. Like, I mean, they weigh an ounce. And I remember I just put them on the grill hole, and my kid walks out, and I open the grill, and she was only 6 at the time, and she freaks out because she thought I just had like a little puppy on the grill.
Oh,
and I'm like, no, it's a pig. But anyways, gentlemen, thank you guys so much for coming on. Where can they find you at?
You can go on our website at initialascent.com or at Initial Ascent on Instagram, and we're Initial Ascent on Facebook as well. So, and YouTube as well. So
now, what's the lead time on a pack? Like, if they want one for this fall, they got a hunt planned. What's the lead time?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, we have pretty healthy inventories right now. We try to keep our inventory levels at a high point for our customers. So I would say right now, probably 85% of our inventory. You're within, if you place an order, within 48 hours, 72 hours, it typically ships.
Very cool. Guys, we're here at MAF all weekend. Come check us out. We'll be here hanging out, shooting bows. Initial Ascent will be here if you want to come try on a pack. Come try it on, check it out. But go check them out. Social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter?
Yes, but yes and no.
Because Twitter's useless.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
So go check them out on social media. Go check out their website. These guys are phenomenal. So they've become good friends of mine, and they make fantastic packs. So go check them out. But guys, thanks for listening. You guys have a fantastic week.